You're watching Women of Strength TV with a purpose-driven woman who has a yearning deep in her soul to serve the world. Presented to you by Ange Wilcock, creator of Evolutionary Model of Well-Being, Mindfulness-Based Storytelling, and the Raw Woman Project, a businesswoman on a mission for every human on the earth to feel enough.
So welcome to Women of Strength, and our stories are all about being authentic. It's not about being professional, because when we live in that place of authenticity, we are professional. And so I have some amazing guests, and one of my guests today is the beautiful Tammi Gunwall. So welcome, Tammi.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And Tammi has such a powerful story to tell. And I just want to tell you a little bit more about Tammi. And this is part of Tammi's bio. And Tammi says that she spent a lifetime working through adversity. And as a child, Tammi suffered in silence as she hid years of sexual abuse at the hands of her stepfather. And as a young adult, she ran into a marriage at the age of 19, only to be met with infidelity, physical and emotional abuse from an alcoholic husband, and eventually divorce. And Tammi later struggled as a single mom, working to support her 2 children while also trying to build her life. And throughout her years, Tammi often struggled with the stigmas of society that taught her and other young women to stay small, keep quiet, and be pretty. And what I love is that Tammi goes on to say, and I was just talking to Tammi off air about this, and that she needs to put this into a quote, because for me it's so powerful. It touches my heart. Tammi believes that everyone has a story to tell, and each story is as beautiful and unique as our individual fingerprint. Wow, Tammi, that is just so beautiful. I love it. So is that something you read, or does that come from your heart, or?
A little bit of both. I think I've read something similar over the years, but it really resonates with me. I think I spent so many years kind of keeping what I was going through internally, that it took a lot of years to kind of process and heal from all of that. And I think what one of the big things that came from that for me was that we as women tend to keep small and keep quiet and keep our stories to ourselves. And yet if we just shared with each other our stories, I mean, because everything is as individuals, our own fingerprint, but at the same time, we connect and resonate, and that is just so critical, and that we connect through story. And it's just, I think it just, it has really brought forward to me in my lifetime at this moment. That particular statement just really is strong with my heart right now.
Yeah, I can feel it. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. Now, this is, you know, our story is all about being strong women and women of strength. So where did your journey start in becoming this strong, independent, courageous woman that we see before us today?
Thank you for that. You know, I'm going to first be honest. One of the things that I remember is growing up, everybody always used to tell me how strong I was. And I very much, I used to get very upset by that. Like, that was a bad word for me. I knew I was strong because I always put up a front, and people thought that was my strength. And so I always resented that when I was younger. As I've grown and worked through my own personal adversities, I see strong as a completely different persona. And strong isn't about being strong and looking strong and putting out that front and looking happy. It's about being open and honest with yourself and your struggles and being real and authentic. Like you said, that's strong. And the more that I have grown through my struggles and worked through, healing, that's when I feel the strongest, is when I am healthy and being able to communicate my story, not only just for me, but to support and help other women. Because what I found is that we share is when we realize how many of us have gone through these struggles together. So
yeah, absolutely. And so during that journey that you've had, growing up, with your sexual abuse and everything that's happened to you, what was the one thing that kept you going? You said you put up a front. What was behind that front that kept pushing you forward?
Well, there's a lot of things. My own personal struggles. You look back on how you handle things, and you just have, as a young girl, I just handled it the best way I could. But what always, I guess, propelled me forward was my family. I had a different way of looking at it. I was trying to protect my family. I didn't want to. I thought if the truth came out, it was going to ruin my family and my mother, and it would destroy where we are as a family unit. But it was just surviving. It's a kind of a survival mechanism when you're going through that. And I always had, I still was a happy kid, but I just had a lot of things I was working through.
Wow. And so you were showing that strength as a young child, like protecting your family already at that young age. Wow. That's quite incredible. And so where did you learn how to be so strong?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I believe it's God-given strength. I think I've always had a level of empathy and love and, just a strong will. I didn't, everybody handles, I think, especially sexual abuse. When you're in it, you handle it differently. And, there were times where I didn't feel like I was strong. But when I looked back on it, it was a day-to-day struggle for a good decade of my life. Yeah. So how can you not be strong in that, right? When I look back. I think it's just, I really do believe it's a trait that God gives us to survive, because we all have a purpose. And I believe everything, happens for a reason or to carry on your purpose. And where I am today in my life, I wouldn't be. So I've always thought that all of the things that I've been through, I wouldn't change for anything, because my experiences have made me who I am. Yeah. And as you continue to go through adversities, things get a little easier because it takes you back and you can see a little bit more perspective, I feel. Yeah. You grow a lot through adversity. So I don't wish adversity on anyone, but there's usually a reason behind it. And of course, you don't always see the silver lining until you've been through it. But
yeah, absolutely. So what would you say to other women out there that may still be holding on to this, this experience that they've had, and they haven't been able to tell anyone because they're protecting others? What advice or what words of wisdom would you pass on to them?
Well, I think first is just love and support. no judgment, because I've been there, and we all do it on our own time and when we're ready. And I'm still growing through this process, even 30 years plus years later. So really just love and support, and just know that there are other women out there. And I also, one of the things I believe, for me personally, when I was going through that, I always felt like I wanted to help protect others while I was going through that. So for some reason in my mind, I felt like if it was happening to me, it must not be happening to everybody else. Like, it's just me, or if I didn't tell anybody, it wouldn't hurt my family. And in the end, it was happening to others, and it did end up hurting my family, but it wasn't my fault. No. And the only one who actually wins is the perpetrator, who can continue to go on in life, with it not out there. And there's so much support nowadays for women, and I just feel very strongly about encouraging women to come out when they're ready, because in the long run, it's going to be so much better. It's like a heavy weight has been lifted.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what was it that happened for you to come out and to let the world know this is what's been happening in your life?
It was a long process, but I tried so many years to kind of suppress it. And obviously in my bio, I talk about how I kind of ran off early age and got married, which I think is a tribute to my childhood. I was just wanting to get out of there. And what I end up happening is, when you really suppress some things, you end up having kind of that post-traumatic stress, where it was years later when I thought everything was fine, and all of these memories started just coming up. And I started having panic attacks, and I was having depression, and I was losing weight, and I couldn't figure out why. It was because my body said, we're done holding on to this. It needs to be released. So it wasn't really my choice. It was my body saying it was time. And so it was through a lot of healing, a lot of counseling, a lot of love and support, that I slowly started going through the healing process, communicating my story. And I found that the more I spoke about it outwardly, because I'd spent so many years holding it in, that it was like this, it was every time I said anything and released anything, it was being released from my heart. And so that, I think that has been the biggest help for me. So that's why I would encourage other women to do that as well.
Yeah. And so how does your body respond today, now that you've released that, health-wise and
everything? Well, I've had other health scares, but for the most part, I feel healthy, happy. And actually, in most recent years, I have had a drive to become a life coach. I just feel this passion, not only now that I can lift that from my own heart and my own body, the healing process, but I just feel so adamantly and passionately about being able to help women, not even necessarily with just sexual abuse, but just in any struggle that we as women encounter, to be able to encourage and empower each other, and support each other. So that's kind of my new avenue, because I feel so strongly about that. But
I can feel that from you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so throughout your healing journey, what's been your greatest challenge?
I think we are probably our biggest critic, and I think I'm really hard on myself sometimes. And so I think the hardest thing for me has just been the judgment I placed on myself through my healing process, how I handled things, how I could have handled things, how things would be different. but you can't go back and look at the past that way. We all handle adversity and struggles differently in the midst of everything. And I was a young girl just learning to survive and be strong in the moment. So I'd say being my strongest, hardest critic is probably the hardest part for me through all that.
Yeah. And how does that critic show up? What does it do? How does it show up for you?
When does it not show up? I am a perfectionist. I would say I'm a perfectionist. And so when I'm hardest on myself is when I'm trying to be too perfect.
Yeah.
And that's when I remind myself, life isn't perfect. Nobody is perfect. I can't expect others to be perfect, and especially myself. But that's where it shows up probably the most.
Yeah. Yeah, and I found through speaking with really strong women, perfection is this thing that's keeps driving us, but it pulls us back too. And that's, for me, that's why it's so important doing these amazing interviews with these beautiful women, is to be clear about, it's not about being polished, it's not about anything other than being authentic. For me, I know what it's like to be a perfectionist, and I have to remind myself every day, because my inner critic's much the same. And even doing these interviews, I don't look at the camera. I love looking at you, but I'm aware that my eyes are all over the place, and it's like, that's me, that's who I am. And right. So when we become too critical of ourselves, it stops us in our tracks. So if something stops you in your tracks, how do you find the momentum to get going again?
Well, I really, at least now, I really try to keep positive. I really focus on a positive perspective, even when I'm frustrated. Keeping motivated through journaling and prayer and things that speak to me, whether that's music or motivational speakers or books that I find. That's just part of my life, and I feel like those are the things that keep me going. I mean, there are times where I've been on my knees, as I'm sure many women have been, and you just think you can't go on. And usually when you're hitting rock bottom is when you can allow that quiet to hear that support you need, whether, like I said, through the written word or music or prayer. That's really what's kind of kept me going.
Yeah.
In those hardest times.
Yeah. And so what's something that makes you laugh out loud, something that excites you and just, what is that?
Laugh out loud? Well, my kids.
Yeah.
I have 4 great kids, and my youngest, so he's 5, so he keeps, or 6 now, but keeps me young. And what really, I don't know about friendships, really, my soul-seeking, truth-telling women friends that I have is really what also lights me up, because we all need each other.
Yeah.
Love that, and good music. When I get a really good song that just lights me up. So
do you boogie and dance around? And
yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Music is amazing for the soul, isn't it? It brings us alive. It really lights us up, and you just want to move to it. And
I definitely have a soundtrack, in all my music that I have, obviously for working out or what, but I have like hope I actually have one titled Hope. And it's just all those songs that really just get me going and get me excited and fill me up. So whenever I'm in that, that's where I go to.
Yeah, and we all have our favorite song. Like mine's India Ari. I don't know if you've heard of her, and it's Just Do You, and it's just amazing. The lyrics and that are just, I can just be dancing around everywhere and just singing it, and so music is.
I usually catch myself in the car and I'm dancing and people are driving by looking at me funny.
That's great. But it's just, it is just being you, isn't it? You're just being you. That's how you're feeling right there and then. And that's, amazing. Now I'm going to ask you one of my tribe's questions. And let's see, gosh. So what's kept you going when challenges threaten to take you off your path? So what keeps you going?
Really, the motivation and drive, I think, for myself, if it depends, depending on what it is, it's that fight or flight kind of deal. I just feel when I'm really passionate about something, nothing really, if there ends up being a detour, a temporary detour, I just if I believe with my whole heart that this is the direction I'm going to go, I have that fight. It's just a fight in me that kind of just keeps me pushing on. And again, I think touching on just staying in motivation mode and allowing only motivational, positive words and inspiration around me to kind of keep me focused and keep me going on, rather than wallowing or getting depressed and getting sidetracked in that is really, I think, what keeps me moving forward.
Yeah. And so do you allow yourself those days where you can be in that sort of dark black mood, or do you keep pushing yourself out of it?
I think it wouldn't be healthy if we didn't. No. I mean, I think there's a fine line between wallowing and allowing it to take you down too far. And I'm not going to say I haven't been through that, because I have.
Yeah.
I will agree. I do believe that, sometimes I have just tried to push through something, and what has ended up happening is, I can talk back to the sexual abuse, is that if you don't allow yourself to really feel it, even the sorrowful and the painful parts, it's going to kind of come back to bite you later. So I do believe that there is a big importance in dealing with that in the moment, and your feelings, and maybe sitting with that for a while is just as long as you can find that fine line, or when it's going to be too long, it's too long within that. Because there's truth and knowledge in being there and being in the moment too.
Yeah, absolutely. And life is all about balance, isn't it? There's good and bad and up and down and right and wrong, and it is all about balance. And I think sometimes when people say I feel out of balance, I always ask that question, what's the feeling that you're not acknowledging? Because it's usually something that we're trying to push away, but we're not actually pushing it away. Like you said, we're pushing it down, and then it manifests itself in, ill health or something's happening in our body. I mean, that's, like you, that's definitely been my experience, that I'd always felt that I didn't have a stressful life, and then I ended up with an autoimmune disease, which is, a lot of contributed to a lot of stress in my life, but I didn't feel stressed. But a lot of it was pushing down the emotions that I hadn't dealt with, through my childhood. And so, and I think the body is amazing, because when we don't listen to the heart, or we don't listen to the mind or our intuition, which is something that guides us through life, the body shouts and screams at us, and then we have to take notice. So for you, what are the subtle things that are your cue to say, oh, there's something here I need to look at?
My intuition, that gut feeling. Sometimes it's a sickness. It comes on as an upset stomach or a headache or what, but it's that gut feeling. Yeah. I don't know. And I could try to explain it, but I think that just says it the best.
Yeah.
There have been so many times in my life where I have opted to not listen to that gut feeling. And when I look back at it later, I've said, I knew it. I knew it all along. I knew that at that moment, and I chose not to listen. So I'm working on that as I'm older now. To trust that, because it really does, I believe it's there for a reason.
Yeah. And do you feel that fear plays a role in when we choose not to listen to our intuition or that gut feeling?
Absolutely. Fear, the fear of, fear. I think the fear is the basis of all of it, right? Fear of being wrong, fear of hurting others, fear of, so many different things, fear of being hurt. So I just, I'd say absolutely that the fear is the basis of all evil.
Yeah. And so how do you remain authentic and remain true to yourself? Because when we know that we deal with fear, fear of rejection, that feeling of not being enough every single day of our lives. So if you had to give some advice to women out there, because we all experience it, every human experiences it, how do we remain true to us? What is it that you do that keeps you in that place?
I think it's allowing yourself the time to circle back all that, to stay real and stay in that place. I spend a lot of time reflecting on that daily, and I don't want to overwhelm women when I say that, like it has to be this major practice, but it really comes down to that gut feeling. If you're walking into a situation, at least for me, and it doesn't feel authentic, or I feel like I'm instantly wanting to become somebody I'm not. I try to really take hold of that feeling and that gut feeling that I have, or maybe that awkward or fearful feeling I'm having, and try to take a step back. So I don't want to say I hide from situations, but I definitely know you start to learn where it is. I don't always try to put myself in situations or in groups that I might push my boundaries a little bit. But, I will say no one's perfect, so I still struggle with that. But I also work daily in my own personal life, but also in my business to help other women to live authentically. So I think that's part of what keeps it real for me, and I'm passionate about that. And I think also having lived a life where I just tried to be what everybody else wanted me to be, that's why it's so much in the forefront for me today to really stay authentic, because I'm just at a place in my life personally. So circling back once in a while, I'm kind of doing that personal check-in, and not trying to put myself in positions where I might, be led down that path of inauthenticity. As best as I can.
And because being authentic, I always see authenticity as that whatever our role is in life, in terms of the job we may do, the relationships that we may be in, the parent that we are, it's about being honest. It's about saying, actually, I'm having a bad day today, or I made a bad decision, or I could have made a different choice. And because we see lots of coaches and women in business out there, and they appear to have this wonderful life. They have all their life together. It looks, but actually that's not real, because as women or as human beings, we never have all our stuff. All our ducks are never in a row. And it's what I love about the women that have reached out and said, hey, I want to share my story with other women too, because everyone that I've, interviewed so far is very much, using those words like you. I still struggle. I have good days, I have bad days, I'm still struggling, I'm still healing, but I'm helping, I'm supporting, I'm helping, I'm being authentic. And I love that, because that to me is what being authentic is. You're being real. You're saying, hey, I've got some amazing skills and abilities, but I'm also still learning and still growing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think that that's where I'm at in this journey, is that, if we just all realize that we all have struggles and we stop trying to be perfect, and stop to realize that no one's perfect and that we're all still healing or working through, and we're all going to go through those. Who wants to hire a life coach who's got the perfect life, telling you how you're going to manage through some of these struggles? So I'm not saying I'm even an expert because I've struggled, but we can all empathize, where your struggle might be different than mine. But we have a bond of and struggles. Did we get disconnected?
It went. Yeah, it looked like we lost signal there. So that's okay. So, and I think we got the gist of what, you were saying, what it is to be authentic, and that, we are real women. That's the thing. We are real women. And I know that when I look at the women who inspire me, I see them as real women. I don't see them as women on a pedestal and, oh my goodness, I'd love to be like that. I look at them and I go, what can I learn from you? Because you will have the same struggles as me. You'll have the struggles as a parent, you'll have the struggles as a businesswoman, you'll have the struggles with your weight, how you look at yourself. And I just love connecting with those women. So who inspires you?
Well, so many people do. Some of my dearest, closest friends and family inspire me. But as women, as I've gone through this growing in this journey, my own personal life coach and trainer and mentor, she helped me. And just I found some Holly Girth is one. I just find her stories to be very powerful. Glennon Doyle Melton, which I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's huge here.
Oh, wow.
Just that she has struggled through a lot in her life, and she is coming, just free and open and sharing her story. So I found her, she was just a mom with a blog, what started out, and she's now written a couple of books. But she's out always helping to empower and other women, and just tell her story that life has not been perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that sharing your story is important, and that has really resonated with me. It's kind of part of my current journey, sharing my story to help others open up and share their stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we look at all those people that inspire us and we read their stories, we're like, wow, I can relate to that, and they got to where they are today. What do you think is that commonality between who we are as women of strength and being strong women, to those women, say, if we look at people like, Oprah Winfrey, who a lot of women admire? What do you think is that commonality, that thread that runs through us all?
Authenticity. And just being real with yourself. I think, obviously Oprah has been very well known and in the forefront But she has too struggled through adversity. She also dealt with sexual abuse when she was younger. And, again, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but those things are, she's not perfect. She doesn't live the perfect life either. And it's that inner strength. It's being able to rise above, I guess. And we all have that. We all have the capabilities to do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what do you love about being a woman?
Everything. It's a sisterhood. I love the sisterhood. Yeah. Because I truly believe that our counterparts don't really have what we have there. And the support. And I believe we just have a strength like no other. Myself, but all the women I see around me, I think, God gave us that ability as women and mothers to mother and nurture and give life and share life with each other. So, I mean, who wouldn't love that? So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Tammi, if women wanted to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
Well, I do have a company called Patina Inspired Life. It's a life coaching and creative mentorship company. Well, it's my website. So if you ever went to patinainspiredlife.com, you could find me. I do write a blog there that you'd be able to find there. Tells a little bit about my story, and I can connect with people on a one-on-one level, and I'm working to do some workshops as well that I'm going to incorporate. But or they could come see me through Facebook or Instagram, Pinterest, social media. So
yeah. Great. Okay, that's fantastic, because I'm sure there are going to be women out there who really would love to connect, with you, and that really do connect with your story. So, yeah. So, just one last question around one last nugget. What piece of advice would you give any woman out there who are going through a struggle at the moment and just need to move forward? What would be one little gem that you could leave them with?
Well, I believe it's all baby steps. It's just taking that first step. It's just one day at a time and taking that next right step for you. To tell you how to handle your adversity or what the next step is, I can't tell you what that is. Only you know that. But really listening to that gut feeling, and just taking that right next step for you. And maybe reaching out to a support system, finding a support system. And if you don't feel that you've had that right immediately around you, there's so many opportunities out there to connect with others that might be going through the same that you are, and to reach out and try to find that extra support.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, because that connection is crucial to us as women, isn't it? To be able to find a tribe that we connect to, that we feel we belong to be able to share and step up. We can step into our power and our greatness. So yeah.
Well, there's so many times we all feel so alone. You feel like you're the only one. And, definitely your struggles are real and personal, but there's almost always somebody else out there who's going through or gone through that same struggle. And just being able to share sometimes is all you need to do at that moment to find that little peace of mind or connection. So I would recommend looking for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and your courage, and such a powerful story. And yeah, I'm so grateful that we've connected. So thank you very much.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Remain real, authentic, and whole. Be yourself and continue to follow your dreams. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time on Woman of Strength TV.